Okay. Two.
Two.
Okay. Share. Okay.
I can share this, man. Whichever one of them. Says.
Yes. The discussion is gonna be up there, but. All right, so we, is it 6:15 Broadway, it's in the park, where, oh,
Oh, this is the King's Inn?
yes.
former.
It doesn't look-
It doesn't look.
All right, so we don't technically have a forum right now, but we're gonna still, hear the presentation. Obviously, we can't have a vote of anything until we get one more member. Nancy, you wanna just chair the meeting for now until Travis comes? I guess.
Do you want to do the approval? No, we can't.
Can't do it, yeah,
Okay,
so-
just let's open, the meeting to our.
So I'm not sure how much information, background you all have, if I can plan to come and answer questions, but I can certainly do a brief overview if that's helpful. Okay, so I'll give a quick timeline. I believe, and I might be stumbling over the dates just a little bit, but back in 2021, the city put out an RFP to redevelop this site that was formerly the King's Inn. We submitted a proposal. We won that in 2022. And then we started to get working on our development of the plans and whatnot, because obviously we had done some of that work going in for our proposal. There was subsequently the rezoning. And so we started looking at different iterations of the project. It got bigger, it got smaller, it had some great parking, it was all over the place. Really dialed that in 23, 24. And then we got working in earnest in 24 on what we now have as the plan in front of everyone. In that process, and I believe Natalie, you can chime in if necessary, but I believe part of the rezoning required frontage on Broadway to be built, like in line with the existing conditions in the city. And so the curb cuts that is there now, we had initially planned to move where you're seeing on, let me see, page 2. And we proposed that initially as a drive for car traffic, yes. And that was not ideal for various reasons. One, it would negate the public plaza or it would minimize the size of it. 2, it would not really be in keeping with the objective to keep the street front there. And then 3, it would be hard for us to access and really provide sufficient parking for our site. So we started conversations with the Salvation Army behind us to either have them grant us an easement, or where we've since landed is purchasing a piece of their land, granting them an easement, providing access for our residents back, which keeps pedestrian traffic and the street wall in the front sort of intact. Like I said, we continued the process with designing the building, which now sits at about 70 residential units and retail, commercial along Broadway, and then surrounding the perimeter of the courtyard that sits within. So I think it's page 4, you see a rendering of that courtyard. Once you come off of Broadway through this, it looks like a very beautiful alley, right? Slide. You enter into this courtyard, which is landscaped, hardscaped. It has the backside of the retail and commercial that face Broadway, and additional retail commercial spaces that sit really on the ground floor before you get into the residential portion that is behind. There is residential above on Broadway as well, which is some, yeah.
In 70 units,
I'm sorry,
how many units?
70. 70, right?
And then retail underneath, just how it is. Okay.
Yes. Like you see on those pages 1 and 2, and then around the perimeter of the courtyard.
And these businesses that you have listed, or?
There's, yeah, we're working in other markets and starting to talk here about what those, what's that?
I like the ones in front.
Yeah, we think they'll really be wonderful spaces and really, kind of activate the street front there and kind of liven up that courtyard, be nice amenities for the residents living in the building. So Natalie, did you want to add anything? here. She's not getting on there.
Oh, she was on there.
Any sitting shade?
Yeah, she's still not able to hear anything, but
She can't hear us?
no, she said she still can't hear anything. I don't see her on there.
She was on, but I don't have to get it on.
Any shade that where people sit?
So we have it landscaped with mature trees and so this, yeah, we have some sun studies, we get some shade from the surrounding buildings, because they're taller on the back side of our site, the 3 stories on the front side of our site, we have the neighboring building. I'm sure it would make sense to
I was just.
have some
Just one line.
umbrellas type thing, but right now, we're not actually showing that. I think that would be more like furniture, fixtures and equipment that kind of come in later and fill out space. And so we've talked about kind of programming this space to be for the community with movie viewings, and we would be able to do that against one of the sides of the buildings. I know you have the last rendering shown has a tree in the middle there, but there's a few different walls on different sides of the courtyard that one area that would able to project something, and we'd like to work closely with, which we have to date, want to continue to do this, is work closely with the arts community and really keep this deep listening plaza as originally intended, open to the public. There is an image on the 3rd page. It shows a gate that we have across that entry into the courtyard, which we intend to close at some reasonably late hour in terms of like keeping it open to the public. We, I think right now have public access 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. or thereabouts. I mean, we'd be closing it the hours that presumably it is not being used or does not.
When the business is closed.
The businesses are closed and our residential tenants quiet, privacy and whatnot, right?
How would they get?
There's a keyless entry, like a fob that would open up one door, and then we have access to the residential unit building in the front. They can get into their building like anyone else along Broadway would. And then the access to the rear buildings would have, they would get that through coming through the back side of the building.
What size are the residences?
We have studios, 1s, 2s, maybe some 3s. I have to double check that. It's a wide ranging unit mix. Building.
Well, can I see their affordability?
We have currently underwritten, and it's what we've gone through with the approvals, is a 20% affordability at an average of 80% of AMI. The rest be workforce housing, which definition wise goes up to 120% of AMI. We have not underwritten to that max. We think that's above market, and so it would be a little irresponsible of us to underwrite that high, unless we were building uber luxury, which we're not. We're just not in that market. Don't think that makes sense here.
Oh.
Um,
Do you have a pool or anything or?
do not have recreation. We do not have a pool for our residential tenants, and the commercial, we have parking spaces, some of which are covered under the backside of the building, some of which are just surface, most of which are surface park. There is EV charging for a number of spaces. There's a residential lobby with an elevator. We likely have the ability to do, or we will have the space to do storage, and TBD whether that's open to the public or not. I think where it's planned and positioned right now, it can be accessed from that courtyard. So we could make that something that's more like basically a business, right, where it's open to the public.
Storage.
Yeah, self-storage. But right now it's planned to be for our tenants.
How many residents
How many residents, like number of people do we anticipate? We can do a run through of that. We might have it in our numbers. Typically, it's like one or two, so it might be 1.5 people per studio and one bedroom. And then for the twos, you have like 2.5 people or something like that. I can get the number. I don't have it off the top of my head.
So it's probably somewhere between 150, 200 total. Not, you know,
Probably.
I guess it would depend on how many of what
Yeah,
kind of.
exactly.
yeah.
I do have a couple of questions. So with the public courtyard area, what will be accessible to the public? It's just seating, the space, like there's no amenities necessarily, correct?
Right, it's the seating, the space,
No restrooms.
no restrooms.
And I'm not a voting member, I'm just the liaison as the department director. Is there an agreement with the city for the space being public? Is there anything, you know what I mean, like anything
Yeah.
that keeps it, like if there's new owners or new anything, you
Right.
know, like,
I believe there is.
okay,
I'm going to look through our documents and I can follow up.
okay.
If there are 150, 200 people there, for recreation purposes, what would they be able to do?
For the residents, you're saying?
Yeah,
What would they be able to do? I mean, I think
would they access the parks in the city or?
yes, sorry, I thought you were talking and I was kind of racking my brain thinking, what do you mean like within the plaza?
Oh, no, it doesn't look like
I
there's.
mean, yeah, it's, it would be like, so within our building, it would be like any other apartment building, you know, there might be a lounge or a small gym, there's tenant storage. You know, they would use it like a housing community. And yeah, I mean, the residents, I think, would fit into the community like anyone else would, right? They would access the parks and some use public transportation and some have their own cars and you know, we have a bike storage room.
And the parking that was, like, Kings Inn was demolished, you know, and it became a nothing area, then it became a parking area, primarily for, UPAC.
Yeah, I think UPAC uses it for overflow during events.
So that aspect will not be there.
That's correct.
So there will not be any more public parking on site, is that correct?
Less.
And this is all public, I mean, this is all private homes, right?
It's all
private.
Correct.
Right. Affiliation with the city.
No, I mean, we're working closely with the city now and have been for a few years to get it developed to a point where, you know, it's revitalizing the area and bringing more residents into the area, new businesses, which, you know, really the site systems down tax dollars and all good stuff.
And the Salvation Army, that has not been sold yet, right?
It's not been sold yet. We have signed agreements, but the transaction.
Is there an estimated for anyone, you guys think that will happen?
I'm hoping that we are able to paper all of this and make it happen before the end of the year or early Q1 in 26. We needed that letter from the Salvation Army all signed up, which they needed their HE approval and all of that in order to get final approvals with the planning board, which we're expecting in the next month or so. And then with that, we can continue to put together a capitalization of the project with equity and debt and continue to take this thing through proper planning, construction, and to get all of that.
Is there a timeline for that?
We'd like to be in the ground. So there's a lot of pieces that need to happen to get there, but we'd like to be in the ground towards the end of the first half of next year. So call it this time next year, if you want to really see construction.
And how long will the construction be?
The construction will likely be about 18 months. We could try to bring it in sooner, but the reality is it always slips a couple months.
Nothing, few things come in.
We know a little bit about that.
Yeah. We're doing, I know it's very different, but very similar in a lot of ways. We're doing engineering on 2 separate buildings in New Paltz right now. And that schedule was 15, 16 months. And I think in the end, we're gonna land about 17 months. So pretty good.
That's not bad.
No, that's not even a delay.
Yeah. Right.
No.
I know about delays.
Well, we've been a few years getting through navigating the
Yeah.
twists and turns to get here, so we're trying to line up the construction team and really like hone in on the schedule, make sure that execute on and actually deliver to a point where we're collecting revenue on our side and it's open, like this plaza open to the public, like we've all been about for time.
What is your ask?
So our ask is a waiver of the recreational.
What are, I don't know, it would be, what are the exact?
Yeah, we changed. So there's, it's not. It's not really a requirement, it's, you know, the commission is supposed to take in the consideration based on what's being proposed. So in this sense, you know, it's supposed to be a rec fee in lieu of parkland. It's the commission's responsibility to determine whether or not you feel this plaza is considered parkland. You know, the fact that it is open to the public obviously means something, I think to some people. You know, I think that's what each member has to consider is, do you feel this covers the impacts, the possible programming or parks? As she mentioned, there's, you know, there's not really, you know, public amenities or even recreational opportunities for the residents. So we're naturally going to see impacts to the parks, to our programs.
In the restaurants, you said there's not any
There's no
restaurants. The businesses that are there will have,
That's correct, they will have restrooms.
and so the people who enter who are patrons will have access.
Right, presumably someone goes in, as a water, use the restroom, but that is up to the business owner.
Yeah, so those are the types of things, you know, that you guys are considered. I think the affordable housing portion of it, that is still being voted on by the council. That if and when that is approved, that will change our process. At this time, that has not happened.
Can you explain how that changes your process, just so I understand?
I'm not entirely sure how it changes our process, aside from, I don't think it will be at our discretion. I mean, we just make a recommendation. The planning board ultimately takes our recommendation and, you know, goes with it or doesn't. But it will make our role a little bit easier in the fact that when sometimes we have these projects that there's a little bit of like a gray area, you know, there's a public space that's being offered. Is it considered parkland, you know, and is it going to, you know, be sufficient for the needs of your residents?
Right.
Or, you know, the project, you know, the development. Are we still going to see impacts, especially as you mentioned, there might be new people to the area, so now we're talking about new residents, and while yes, they're gonna, you know, it might be a benefit to the economy, it's more for us and our purposes, how will it, you know, how will it impact the parks and our program, so that's really what our only role is, and how we are supposed to determine it. But once that whole thing is approved, we won't really have, it will just be like a set number. It won't be like this commission could assess any number based on the proposal or based on the project. That once this new code is put in place, we won't have that discretion, basically.
I see, okay.
Yeah.
We won't know what will happen.
But yeah, we gotta talk to Part Tech about that still, it's a little unclear to us, but we just know for the most part, we won't really have any discretion in what is determined.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we do not have a fourth member, one member is sick and is unable to make it, the other is not here. So I don't know that we can really vote today, but I do wanna make sure that you guys get your questions to Lauren and anything else that you think is important for us to consider,
And then we ask, so that when they are,
When they are,
we can
right,
explain.
right.
Right.
I think, I think she answered.
Yes.
So there's question, but
I was gonna ask it.
Nice presentation.
And I think, you know, you were sitting in on the meeting where we met with all the different department heads.
Yes.
We talked about watershed and how it would be handled in the landscape and the hardscape and
Yeah,
making sure this area and the runoff, so, I mean, to the extent that it helps in beautifying the community, the space, both for the residents, the businesses, and the public that comes to enjoy it. Considered all of these things and heard and taken into account in our landscape plan and in our design of the buildings and the massing to make sure that actually that we've done a sun study to see where she kind of lands, but also making sure that doesn't feel cavernous because that's not inviting to the community. So
yeah, that is good to know, and just so I'm clear, I know you said that the hours would be reasonable, whatever that is, I mean, who will be responsible, I mean, I'm assuming there'd be a maintenance person, like someone will.
yeah, it's our private property management team that would be handling the cleanup, the security, and all maintenance in that area, and would also help facilitating with some of the community events, like I said, like the local arts community to make sure that it's utilized for events and whatnot that make the area feel, you know, used and enjoyed and accessible.
So that's good to know also, it will not be our parks staff that we don't take on that burden. So we'll be carrying that responsibility.
Yeah, I think liability wise, our insurance would be all over that, yes. I mean,
Any other questions, Dave? I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry, we did have quorum initially, so I apologize that we don't have a vote that can be made today. I recognize that I think there's a planning board meeting coming up too, the 16th. So we'll follow up with them and, you know, I'll let them know.
is there any, I don't even know, I'm just off the cuff with this, just to the extent that this vote impacts that meeting, is there any interim vote, like special meeting that can be held, or can it be handled outside of the meeting?
I would have to talk to the planning board to see what they would want us to do. It's possible that they may take our notes and make a determination without.
Okay.
They don't necessarily need.
I see.
It's just because again, it's just a recommendation. So, you know, they could get our recommendation and go the opposite way if they wanted to. So
I see.
yeah, so it's, when I talk to them, I'll, you know, kind of give them the update and any notes and, you know, they may say, do you think you can call a special meeting? Because we would like, you know,
I
we could go on, but so I will definitely let you know what they decide and.
Okay.
But yeah, we certainly don't want to hold anything up if possible.
What's the name of your company? Baxter Development.
Okay, I just like.
Baxter is, yes. We're sort of a three-pronged vertically integrated company that does most well-known for the construction business where we do our in-house projects, but also for third-party clients. So we'll build condos for someone else if that works for us, but we mostly do mixed use and multifamily development project. And then we have our management team manages as well. So nice to have. And everyone's sort of under one roof, but we third party contract between the three companies. checks and balances for our investors.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. I'll follow up and let you know what. All right, thank you. All right. Hello, may have just heard, unfortunately, we do not have a quorum. We had members that were unable to make it last minute. We would still love to hear from you guys. We just. I can't vote.
Understandable, we thank you for your time.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I'm Rhoda Wilcox, I am the Executive Director of Kingston Housing Authority. Thank you again for your time. We wanted to just let you know what we, regarding our Phase 2 project, what we are looking at regarding the landscaping and project. I'm gonna introduce John Matteo. He is our partner, but he does most of the landscaping and all the nuances that I don't get into on a day-to-day. So he's gonna give you a more in-depth about what our project is.
Thanks, Geraldo. What Geraldo was trying to say very nicely, that she's the boss and she tells me what to do. That's the way it works.
Reasonable.
Well, you gotta know that. I think that you guys are probably aware, Geraldo is a recent addition to the Housing Authority. He's been here 9 months.
A year next week.
New executive director has done an unbelievable job at the Housing Authority. For the record, my name is John Matteo. I work for Malco Construction and Development Company. About 4 years ago, the Housing Authority partnered with Malco to put together a plan to redevelop the Housing Authority's full housing stock. The Housing Authority has about 440 units, state and federally assisted housing units at that point, public housing. All those buildings, as I'm sure you know, are 40 to 50 years old. They're tired. The Housing Authority has never really had enough money from the state or the federal government to maintain them the way that they would have liked. So they need work. Phase 1, the Housing Authority in Malco completed about 3 or 4 months ago in February. It was 120 units. We completely renovated all of the units in that complex. So that was done, as I say, we started, it's about a year's worth of rehabilitation work, but about 3 years worth of planning to get there. Phase 2 is always going to be, let's move on to the other units. So in Phase 2, the project that we have, and we fund these projects through the New York State Housing Finance Agency, Homes and Community Renewal, primary funding sources. The Phase 2 of the project involves 3 projects the Housing Authority has. One is Wiltwick Gardens, which is on Albany Avenue, that's 60 units of seniors. Another is Colonial Gardens, which is 98 units of family, and that's on off of Flatbush Avenue. And the third is Penn Court, which is 32 units of seniors, and that's also off of Flatbush Avenue. The plan is, and it's all in one financing package. Package is about $120 million at this point, the total development cost to completely redevelop everything. At Wiltwick Gardens and Colonial, we're going to keep the units. We're going to keep the unit count. Okay, we're going to rehab what's there. We're also going to do some major rehab work in terms of there are some community rooms that are 40 years old. So we're going to completely redo those. There are playgrounds at the Colonial Gardens buildings. They have to be completely redone. Wiltwick is a senior area, so we'll be providing some sitting areas outside. The main recreational services at Wiltwick is going to be the community room. Right now, it's not ADA compliant. People can't use it, as well as being old. So we're going to make that completely ADA compliant. And we've done a lot of work with both Geraldo in a previous life before she came here in Malco, done a lot of work with senior buildings. Seniors we found tend to like their own community room. So certainly if there's an event, that's going on in the city or the community, they'll go to that. But in terms of day-to-day recreational services, they like if we can provide a good community room, nicely furnished with a television, with programs, okay, and make it active for them. That's where they get most of their recreational facilities. So those two projects are not going to add any units. They're going to be the same unit counts. But we're going to upgrade the facilities and the recreational facilities at both of those projects. The third project is comprised, Penn Court's comprised of two buildings, 16 units in each building. Those buildings are, again, not ADA compliant, and to renovate them didn't make any sense. So we're going to relocate the tenants out of those buildings. Okay, we pay for the relocation to move people out and back. And that's what we did in the Van Dyke Apartments. And so we're going to move people out, and we're going to take those two buildings down. And instead of the 32 units that are there now, we're going to build a 4-story building, and it's going to have 80 units. So we're actually going to be adding 48 units at that site.
And just to interrupt, they're all studios right now. They're going to 1-bedrooms.
Which is much more useful for the residents, obviously.
Especially our seniors.
Yeah, which is great. And so, we have a site plan application before the planning board at this point. We've been working with them for a couple of months, and they've had a lot of input into the design and where the building is going to be and the height and the colors and all sorts of things. This will give you a little bit of an idea. It's hard to tell without the before and after, but this is going to be the new building. It's a 4-story building.
That's the Penn.
This is Penn Court. And then if you go down here, what happens is this sort of bleeds into Colonial Gardens. There's a big courtyard out here. That's Colonial Gardens courtyard. And this is how it looks if you go along the exterior road there, Flatbush Avenue. You can see the building there, and you see it from a different elevation there. So it's a building. I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but I think the planning board has well received the design because they had a lot to do with it as we went through that, and they've been great. They came out and visited the site a number of times. So we're very close to getting planning board approval. And one of the things we picked up is that we need to touch base with the Recreation Commission. And one of the things I didn't mention is that as working with the city, obviously, as mayor's office and everyone has been very supportive. We're going to be asking the city for a pilot agreement. And what we did with the Van Dyke Apartments, we not only made a pilot agreement with the city, but we gave the city a one-time payment of $1,000 a unit. So for this project, we're proposing a pilot agreement, which is still being negotiated with the city. But we also proposed that we would make a $1,000 a unit payment for all 238 units. Even though we're only adding 48, we're going to make that payment to the city. And that's a one-time payment when we close on the construction financing, which we think is going to happen December into this year, the beginning of next year. So we'd like to get planning board approval. We understand you can't take a vote this evening, but what we're asking, I know that there are recreation fees that sometimes get imposed. Here, we think we're providing recreational services for the residents. Certainly, we're improving the recreational facilities at Colonial Gardens, and which we're also going to have a community room and computer room related to that, and bike storage. There's a lot of amenities that we're providing on the rehab side at both Colonial Gardens and Wiltwyck, and then at Penn Court as well. The Penn Court building, in terms of recreation, in addition to the community room is designed so that you can go directly from the community room outside to a patio, an outdoor sitting area, and then there are other sitting areas on the site. Wiltwyck, there are sitting areas around the site as well. So we feel we're providing a lot of recreational services that will be used by the residents here. So we are asking that you would waive any potential recreation fees, particularly given the fact that we are going to be making another payment to the city and municipal impact. So
You know, it's how much?
$200,000 a unit, so
200.
238,000.
You did mention a playground.
Yes, there are going to be
So where is
playgrounds.
that?
Not what would.
Not for the senior, this Penn Court is seniors, the new building is seniors, Wilwick is seniors. So for those areas, we're providing community rooms, outdoor sitting areas, walkways, paths and stuff like that. Colonial Gardens, you're absolutely right, is a family development. There are playgrounds there now that haven't been maintained as well as we would like. So we're going to put two completely new playgrounds in there. Two, yeah.
One is already in the process.
Yeah.
And the other one is included in phase 2 of the plan.
Of this.
And there's,
Yes.
the whole project is a total of 40-something new,
The total new units are 48.
48.
Okay, out of the 238 units total.
But this particular project, the Penn Court residents, that is just seniors.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
correct. At Penn Court is seniors and Wilwick is just seniors. So,
Is it any of the affordable housing?
yes, all affordable. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you for doing my work. All affordable. Nobody's paying more than 30% of their income, okay, for housing. Anybody that has to get relocated to work around in rehab, we pay all the costs. We help move them back. So there's no cost to them. It's exactly what we did at Van Dyke. And surprisingly enough, well, because I'm wood to knock on, at Van Dyke, we relocated 100 households and there were no problems. Usually somebody drops a lamp, somebody breaks a television. It's been great. The residents have been great to work with at Van Dyke. And once we get going, and the key is obviously working with the residents. And once they see that you're doing what you tell them that you're going to do, the cooperation is wonderful.
Now, I'm trying in my mind, Mission Penn.
Oh, it's in that.
We got the Stuyvesant thing. or-
Had sensible from Flatbush.
That's correct. As you come in,
It's
You go right through the.
you go right
It
through.
it goes through,
That's-
And
even ABC,
yeah, the child,
daycare,
Yeah.
childcare center.
The second picture, is the one that it helped me, the one where when you go around the bend.
when you're,
Yeah, that was,
That one.
that's the one where I could visualize it. When you're coming from the old Rite Aid, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
So
Flatbush.
that's there now.
That's Flatbush.
pardon me?
You wanted, definitely.
View 1 is Flatbush.
Yeah.
So
And none
if you
of
look at
this,
it-
none of this planting is here now. This is all going to be additional new planting.
Right. If you look at it, Penn Court is over, this is Penn Court and it's over here, the school is here. So when you come into Flatbush and you come into Cologne, that you turn right, you go all the way down. When you turn right and you go around that curve, you go straight up and it's a hill.
Okay.
Up there, it's all the way in the back, but it's right off of Flatbush here.
It's close to Flatbush, but you can't access. it.
Right, you can't access. Oh, okay.
You have to go in through the corner.
You have to go in through Colonial, and that's part of what we had a traffic engineer working with the planning board, and they worked out a new traffic pattern, okay? And we're providing additional parking spaces as well, but the new traffic pattern will be clearer and make it safer for everyone.
Yeah, because I know that it seems to be difficult for them to come out up on the top.
Yeah.
Where Penn is.
There, yeah,
Onto Flatbush.
it's a tough
There's
curve.
no entry there.
It's just too.
Right. It's not, it's hard parking, there's no exit there. You know, like I said.
So we're modifying the entrance, and the exit, make it clearer, make it easier to get in and get out.
Yes.
Traffic engineers presented that to the planning.
Kingston Housing, is that the city of Kingston?
City of Kingston.
They own it, they're,
It's privately owned, it's nonprofit. It is an entity, it was an entity of Kingston Housing Authority till it branched off. It was. I'm not gonna say it was entity of Kingston, but it was one of the divisions of Kingston.
So the Kingston Housing Authority is not a part of the city government,
right,
but it's a quasi-governmental
Yes.
agency.
Thank you.
And then what happens is and this is the same thing that we did in Van Dyke, there's a partnership between the Housing Authority and Malco. And we co-develop it. Malco builds it, Housing Authority manages it. Okay, We split as a development fee. We split the development fee, so the housing authority will get some funds that will help support the housing authority. And then after 15 years, then the housing authority can say to Malco, okay, project is up and running. You guys can leave and they'll take over 100% of the ownership.
I want that apartment.
Great to do, right?
Very, very.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the most wanted apartment.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, are there any, housing authority properties that are owned by the city of Kingston?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, but that's why I was asking.
Right, all
It sounds-
property is owned and managed by Kingston Housing.
Okay, they're managed by Kingston Housing Authority,
Yeah.
which is a separate entity.
It's a separate entity, separate budget, independent, but related.
Was originally, a partnership with HUD. That, relationship was severed when they converted into section 22 back in 2023. So no longer do we get any funds from HUD except for under the Section 8 program, no more public housing. It's a win-win for not only Kingston Housing Authority, but also for the city of Kingston, because now we can redevelop and get funds in that can help to redo these buildings and make sure that they're not only safe and affordable, but also up to the standard of where we can compete with the private sector.
Somewhat unrelated, but are there restrictions in the apartments? Or, so someone who, in some settings, people with convictions aren't allowed to have public housing.
Yes, there is rules and regulations that still govern us because we do get funding from Section 8, where we have to do background checks. That's a given. There's certain levels of that background check criminal act that we are not allowed. Definitely no drugs. Definitely no convictions, violent convictions. Those are two that will not be in there.
Recently, in the news, there was some kind of gun violence at Van Dyke. I know you have no control over that, but, as far as security, are you,
I am more responsible.
responsible for, making it a more secure environment as much as possible?
Yes, unfortunately, you have those bad apples. This was, a lot of individuals that are in there were before my time. I think if I had been there, a lot of them wouldn't have been there because I'm very strict on making sure residents are safe, 1. 2, I would definitely follow the regulations. So unfortunately, some of those bad apples didn't. I was away when that happened. But it was when I got the word, instantly talked about especially with my board, about putting the RFP out to see how much it would cost for security. Security is gonna be expensive. Gotta look at options. We installed cameras. At one point we didn't have cameras in the hallways. I just installed those. The damage that we had in the apartments and the hallways at that time went instantly down because they know they're being recorded. We are looking at options. But you can't go anywhere and it's gonna be, outside of having a cop sit outside at the site 24/7.
I mean, that's,
It may not even stop them there, because a lot of these young kids, I hate to say it, don't have respect for the law. They fight the cops with no problem.
One of the things that the housing authority has done is we do have not only cameras, but we've got license plate reading.
Yeah,
Because a lot of people were coming in from outside
yeah,
the site
yes.
and doing their drug deals and doing their other things that they shouldn't have been doing. And so the license, we installed that at Stuyvesant. And the same type of thing we're going to be doing here. We're going to have, especially in the new building, there'll be cameras throughout the building. There'll be security cameras outside. And then we're working with Geralda to try to figure out what we can do on Wiltwyck and Colonial. But I think a couple of things have happened, and I could be a little bit wrong on this, but I'm thinking the the issues that the housing authority was having before or roundabout here have been significantly declined. I'm not saying something doesn't happen like you mentioned the other day, but there are much less complaints and much less issues. I will tell you, we were under construction for a full year at Van Dyke. We never had a tool stolen. We never had a window broken, which is surprising at a construction site. And so I think there has been a gradual change, and I think that's going to continue with Geraldo for sure.
And you said that Will Twick is also senior, right?
Yes.
Because I mean, I do remember hearing something about some gun violence over there as well within the past few weeks.
That I haven't heard of.
Yeah.
No, I did hear about it and, the individual that was involved was not even a resident there,
That's usually.
but even a resident. Tell you that the individual that they went to see came to me and said, hey, this is not me, this is something else, I don't know what that was, they no longer even, welcome back there.
I'm just asking, because I general people. You know, but
No, clearly security is an issue. We're aware of it. We're going to do the physical things that we can do. And I think part of that is sort of attitudinal when people see that more attention is being paid to security and they, back off a little bit.
And I'm working on our leases being updated, because our leases are old. They're gonna be updated to include very specific language to say, if this happens, you're gone. It's a violation, it's not even just a small thing, we're not gonna tolerate it. When we had the big fight last year at Colonial, I sent out letters and said, gotta go. We're not accepting this violence at our sites.
and you want to attract a certain clientele anyway.
Right, correct. So, but I can tell you this. When they got those letters, everybody shut down. And they was like, oh, I don't wanna lose my.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's my community too, I'm here too, so it's not like, I don't live out here, I want that around me, yeah.
So at any rate, I'm sorry, you have another question?
No.
So you know what the program is, our request. We understand that you can't take a vote.
Yes.
I don't know what you're gonna do with the planning department, If you want to talk to Sue Cahill, we'll tell them that we were before you, and explain the situation, and whatever it is, we'll work it out. If we need to come back for a special meeting, we'll come back. And if it can wait until the next meeting for the vote, which my guess is that even if they grant an approval at the June 16th meeting, it can be conditional upon something issued afterwards by the board. So,
Yeah, that would be great. Again, I apologize.
Yeah, no.
No,
I understand, you guys are all doing extra. I saw the mayor on the way out. And is it, you had a half a day today, and now I have 3 more meetings.
Yeah, he's heading for some alcohol right there.
So we understand you guys are doing extra work too, and we appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
If that's your folder, what's your?
It is, that's the way I would see it. I know that
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting.
It's at 132 Rondout Drive. Rondout Drive, right in Rondout Gardens.
Oh, thank you.
The office building here.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Then we'll talk with you for other things that happen in that community as well.
And I'll give you my card. My goal is eventually to start connecting with some of the other agencies to start making sure our seniors, age in place. Our kids get some functions. I'm actually back working with the city to
That's what I
with
want.
jobs and things like that, so.
But not the city. I also sit on a board at the AJ Williams Myers African Roots Community Center. So we'll talk. Yeah, it's nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right.
Well, we got about 10 minutes here, just a couple of things, real quick. So I'm interested for the first project, I'm interested to hear if there's an actual agreement with the city. the courtyard remaining a public space? Like, is there a deed or terms in place? What's the duration of that? Like, does it expire at some point? If it sunsets, if there's a new company? Those are the kinds of things that she seemed to think there was something. I have not been presented with that. It's not city property. I know we had
I think it's lovely, but I don't.
Oh, yeah.
think part of that.
yeah, and it's not, and it's like, it's different in another proposal that we had to consider.
Right.
In that it was already city property. And there were amenities, it was, red.
So there could be something.
This to me does sound a little bit different now that I'm hearing, and I'm glad she came. And I think I am interested to see if there is an actual agreement with the city. I think that that's important. So, to the public, I mean, I don't know if you feel that's all, I'm not trying to plant anything in anyone's head, whatever you feel, it's
I
just.
don't-
What is being offered to?
That's just that area,
Yeah, you can walk
that
in.
sitting area.
And she's mentioning that.
It's nice, I can go have coffee here.
Yeah.
And go have, we can meet for coffee, lunch and sit down out there and have a conversation, but it's not necessarily, or it's not by any measure,
Recreation.
parkland or recreation.
And that's the question, again. We have a very specific, and similar to what the gentleman, John was just talking about. It does sound like they're making payments towards something else.
And what is that?
What did you say, $1,000?
$1,000 is 200, the total would be $230 something thousand dollars to the city in lieu of the payments, for the 43
Extra unit?
extra units or 45.
And I don't think that guarantees that they won't have to pay something to us. I just wonder,
Right,
what does it mean?
right.
Are they gonna do both if we end up assessing?
Right, what does that mean, man? Because that's in excess.
Well, I'm trying to
And I take that in heartbeat, and as recreation,
right.
there's some of that
Ours,
200,000 coming to recreation.
ours would be 144.
Right, now,
Right.
you're offering 230. You're
And it
offering,
goes to the city, it just doesn't go to the rest.
Us.
Yeah, like we wouldn't have access to use that for a playground or anything.
Yes.
can we request it?
I don't think so.
No, I don't know what that.
They used to be able to do the community, right? Or no?
The whole public?
I don't,
No, he's saying the money, you're saying that.
You're saying money.
So they're donating $230,000 to the city. And would the mayor or whoever's in charge of that, allocate some percentage of that to recreation?
I'm gonna ask if any of that would be.
I would ask.
In lieu of, right?
In lieu of, which would more than satisfy the $120,000 or $130,000 at $3,000 a unit. I mean,
Right, because the first four are exempt anyway, so that would be, yeah, so it'll be another 12,000, so it really, we're talking about 128.
right, rather than 230, it's an extra $100,000, so
right.
So I think that's a fair question.
Yeah, so it would be split between.
I don't know.
Well, I don't know.
It could be.
But the question is, could it
Could it be?
split
Yeah.
so that Parks and Rec
Some of it.
gets some of that?
I mean,
Because it's gonna be more people using city parks and recreation.
and I guess I'm a little confused, that's why I asked, so. I'm not familiar with this space, like, it's a little confusing to me, 206 and 208 Flatbush Ave. Is that encompassing all of the buildings?
It sounds like
Yes,
it is.
they do it over.
You know what?
200,
A Flatbush. I think it encompasses gardens.
Right.
And Penn.
So not Wiltwyck and Stuyvesant.
But they're gonna do Wiltrick also over.
Is it, what are they?
and there's a.
That's like, is that some of the playground?
No,
$1,000 to the-
no, Wheels.
Wiltford is senior. So
They're doing a rec room for them,
they're doing.
the
yeah,
community rooms.
room or whatever.
Right.
there. They're doing Penn, they're doing community rooms there.
Now, Penn, isn't that Stuyvesant Charter? No,
No,
no.
no,
Okay.
it's 32.
Now, is Stuyvesant back there?
Of senior housing.
It's back
Yes.
there on, they're gonna do,
Ferguson is now Van Dyke.
Stuyvesant is Van Dyke,
yeah,
okay.
okay.
And they've redone that.
They've done, okay.
So Stuyvesant became Van Dyke and it's been renovated.
And that's seniors?
I mean, you add, no,
No,
that's
No,
not
that's
seniors.
just
when you add Van Dyke,
seniors housing.
Colonial Gardens, where's Wiltwyck?
On
That's-
Albany Avenue,
Albany.
next to St. John's,
And then you add,
Penn,
there's 200 and something units.
Yeah, there's,
right,
what's the
right
name of
there.
Didn't he say 84 total?
that?
At
No,
Penn.
there's more than that.
In
There's
Penn, I thought there were-
60 at Warwick,
There's gonna be 80 something at Penn.
Right,
98 at Colonial.
But we're only considering, that's what I'm trying to figure out, we are only
So
considering
the
the
extras at Penn.
80, so
Right.
80, constructing a building to house 80 senior apartments, the
Right.
net gain will be 48 new units, that's the
Right.
only.
right, so it was
That
only,
That's-
48,
I think
that
that's-
48 would be,
That's what I mean, we're not, are we, that's what I'm saying, no, we're not supposed to consider all this other stuff,
no,
while
no,
it's,
no.
while it's nice, that's
Right.
not what's
Right.
being.
so we're looking
But then-
at the 48 extra units, because that's all that's extra.
But it's senior housing.
And it's senior housing, they have a community room, and they're giving $1,000 for all of the units, not just.
they're doing,
Right, that's.
So that's the $230,000.
Right,
Which for me would more than, I mean, I would
I
like
mean, it's going to the city, it's not,
Yeah.
it's not going to the city, it's just a matter of,
what department or.
but it's also just, this is where it's a little tricky, is it's not parkland. We're not getting, we're not gaining parkland, or they're not gaining parkland where,
well, see, they threw in that Colonial Garden
Yeah.
new.
that's why I got
Playground.
confused, but
You
it's.
know, but it has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Right.
Because that has, or they've already, they're not new units, they're just upgrading them.
Yes, right,
And so they have at some point paid their,
I don't know.
possibly paid.
No, I don't know where, I
I
don't
don't
know
know
what
if
we're
they
talking
did.
about. Cause I think they renovated, they weren't.
No, they just rented.
Yeah, if
That's
it's
an old,
yeah, if it
That's
was
for old.
renovated, we don't
get
discuss,
Right.
right, they don't
So
even bring it
this
to us.
Penn
We just need.
This is
More
what you
units.
do.
More units, for
48
senior housing, right?
and the seniors recreation,
They,
they're implying can be done in the community room
Yeah.
and or at the parkland or whatever. At Colonial.
The other question, I guess, is something should have, I could always ask them, as a follow-up. Or, I mean, is it safe to assume these are existing residents?
well, you'll be getting 40 new residents though.
Well, not new,
Right.
new meaning, are they
Because-
already City of Kingston residents? So
Oh.
whereas the other project was expecting new residents,
coming in.
people coming in.
Right,
That's where, to me, when I think about impact.
It's part of the Kingston Housing Authority, right?
right,
So I would think that they would be taking names from a list.
That's what I
right,
think.
right.
Is what I'm thinking.
Right.
So,
What is the
Yeah,
wait,
I
so that
think-
was my, I should have asked that
Right,
too,
but
the
that-
waiting list, where, so, because you mentioned they're gonna be moving people while they do the work.
Yeah,
Are those people coming back in, or is it open?
I'm so
to the
But he was in-
back into
Yeah.
He was
I
implying
think
that
there's
he
the
wants
ones
them
that
out and then he
have
moves them
or
back.
back in.
like grandfathered in. I
Right,
think.
but for the new one, there will definitely be a.
Go to the list.
So I would imagine we're talking about existing Kingston residents.
Oh, yeah.
We're not talking about like, no one's moving here from,
And
this is supposed to.
I think Kingston Housing Authority has a list that.
Yeah,
Like,
right,
then,
be able to.
and then updated, you know,
Okay, so, I mean, again, I know we can't vote, but is there? I guess that the first thing I need to do is talk to planning, let them know that we did not have a quorum, I don't know
Right.
what happened. But. Yeah, I mean, planning will have to tell us if they need,
us.
yeah, but if they actually want it, or I think he mentioned. They might proceed with their own vote and say,
They had before,
right, and they will still say, can you please still have the commission vote on it, cause
right,
maybe they would, maybe you could put something in there that it's dependent on,
right.
possibly on the commission, the rec commission's feedback.
Yeah,
So,
and the second proposal I would be in favor of, the caveat that
yeah, I want to.
it's something to be carved out for Parks and Recreation, because there's gonna be an
Right,
increase.
Right, if they're already paying something, my question would be,
Do we get it?
but is it intended, because I'm not really sure who came up with that
Yeah,
number and why.
it's unlikely that
They
if
just
I have the
offered it?
building,
Yeah.
that I'm gonna just offer you a
Right,
couple $100,000.
Right.
so I just wonder if it's earmarked, that's the only question, if it,
Oh, right.
it might not
And
be
it
able
may,
to
it may
allocate.
or may not be, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So- I will definitely I'll ask the mayor's office about that one. And then I will ask planning just in general,
Right.
this, so you
On
have,
both, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, because we can't vote on either, so it's more of, how do you want us to proceed right now?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I mean, if I if I were to go, I would think that I would want to kind of waive the 40
You're saying for the
for the seniors.
Flatbush one.
Right. And collect
And,
more than that
yeah.
on the.
On the agreement that they approved, right?
Yeah, I'm interested to know more about that.
Yeah.
I think for the first one, again, I don't have a vote, but I think what's more important in my mind is when you say it's a public space, you need stuff, and handshake agreements are never gonna be long lasting. What are the terms of that? And is there something in writing?
I don't see anything I really like the first one.
Yes.
I
Right.
really like it. But I don't see it being our plan
I mean,
at
that's
all.
gonna be a major impact.
And it's a couple hundred people
Right,
On the city, right,
in Midtown.
right.
in Midtown and other areas too. I mean, there's a beach.
No, but the
No,
housing is
the
right
housing
there in
is
Midtown.
located.
Yes,
You got a couple hundred new people living right there,
yes.
which is good for the restaurants and stuff in that area. But, Parkland, the Barman is closest, right?
Farm, yeah.
Well, people.
And the beach,
to
get on
wherever
it.
They want to.
Oh, yeah,
go to,
yeah.
But, yeah.
All right, well, I'll follow up with planning and let you guys know what came of that. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
That's it?
Yeah, Children's Day Parade, you might have seen there, put that out, the announcement,
When is it?
July 11th. The theme is sports
Oh,
movies.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's cute.
yeah, Andrew, I just want to give him a shout out, Andrew Williams in our department put together a very nice flyer. It is part of the press release. We'll be posting it on social media tomorrow, but we've started sending out emails to local elected officials as well as some of our community groups that would normally
Me.
participating in the parade.
And it'll go the same.
What did you say?
Sports movies.
Oh.
And I'll send it to you guys too. I ran out to come here, but I have an email ready to go to you
It
guys.
ends at the plaza again.
And there's a carnival afterwards, being hosted by My Kingston Kids.
Yeah.
So it's not through the city, but My Kingston Kids has arranged a carnival, with in coordination with Herzog's and Plaza folks. So they're gonna be putting on a nice event afterwards, and I think throughout the weekend.
Oh,
Yeah.
and fireworks, so.
I have not heard about fireworks. I'm not
Okay, 'cause
sure.
that's always the,
Yeah, everyone always asks, but I don't know that
it's
is
so
part of.
expensive.
Yeah, I think that location maybe is a little tricky from what I've heard. But, and then the, KPFFA is going to be, volunteering and helping
Okay.
us with hot dogs for the.
Which they always do.
Yep. Yeah, so we're looking good, our staff, everyone's working hard and our kids will always pull something lovely together. So,
Yes.
I know we're a little over on time, so that's the main thing I wanted to update you guys on. Everything else is just full blown. Trying to get summer camp and summer programs up to speed, so. Just a lot of people work, a lot of arranging staff trainings and that kind of stuff, but
Lifeguards okay?
That's what I.
yeah, we have a lot of lifeguards,
Good.
with the last couple of years, we've had a lot of lifeguards, the issues with scheduling, between the vacations and going back to school.
That's all.
That's then the tricky thing is being able to stay open through,
Right, when
End of
our
March.
school starts.
Yeah, so-
On theirs.
sports, some of these kids start their sports training and
Right.
camps and stuff earlier. So it is very, very challenging, but everyone's working hard with the schedules, we're trying to get it all arranged and make sure everybody's certified, trained properly and should be.
Okay.
Good to go, excited.
Is the beach open?
Once we have lifeguards, it's.
When is that, July?
So it's dependent on the staff schedules and stuff, but we're planning for both beach and the pool to be open by June 28th. We can open earlier, we will announce it, but it likely look.
People are there.
Oh, yeah, people are always at the beach.
They're not supposed to be in the water when they're on
Oh,
lifeguard
okay.
activity.
All right.
They have signs up, we can't,
Yeah.
people should not be.
They're there.
in the
I bet
water.
they were there today.
Oh, my God.
All right, we're gonna end the meeting,
Okay.
so whoever, well.
Our next
sorry.
meeting is Thursday, July 10th
Yep.
at 5 p.m. Okay,
And yeah, hopefully we'll.
and then we'll wait for your
Yes, I will follow up with everyone.
everything.
All right, thank you guys for being here. Appreciate it. Just close this out.